Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, photographers from all over the country are meeting here to connect, inspire, and create. Our guest speakers share their tips and techniques. They infuse creativity and inspiration to help us all improve our photography skills. The schedule for upcoming presentations is on my website at lindanickell.com, as well as the links to previous sessions on the Happiness Hour YouTube channel. Tonight's guest is Carolyn Cummins. Carolyn is a Washington-based photographer that spends a lot of her time outdoors photographing nature, landscape, and wildlife. With the freedom to roam around in an RV, her travels have allowed her to venture off the beaten paths to add to her travel portfolio. But in tonight's presentation, Adventure and Focus in the Outdoors, Carolyn will share the stories behind some of her favorite photos. If you're on Instagram, you can find her at Shootin' for Fun, and you can connect with her through her website, CarolynCumminsPhotography.com. Carolyn, welcome to the Happiness Hour as a speaker. You've been coming for a long time as an attendee, and you made direct eye contact with me once, and I thought, let me just ask you to do this, and you said yes. It was a little while ago when I asked you, so 6 months flies by really fast, right?
It does, yes.
All of a sudden, here you are. All right. With that, I skimmed over a little bit of your bio. So if there's anything you want to add or, point out that I missed, this is your opportunity. And other than that, I'm going to let you get started.
Okay. Should I go ahead and share my screen?
If you're ready.
Sure.
All right.
Well, Linda, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you asking, and I'm honored to share my passion of photography. And just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and I got my first camera at 16 years old. And I began documenting my memories then, Girl Scout camps and church camps and memories like that, and car camping adventures with my mom. And in 1981, I moved to Alaska and lived there for 9 years. And I wish I could say I got a lot of scenery photos from Alaska, but I didn't. Those were the days where I met and married my husband and had our 2 kids. And so, of course, I was documenting babies and things like that. And then in 1990, we moved to Bellingham, Washington, which is a spot in between the Cascade Mountains and the San Juan Islands, and beautiful spot. And we're an hour and a half north of Seattle and an hour and a half south of Vancouver, BC. So lots of things to see and do. And it was here that we raised our kids. And I've enjoyed photographing every moment of them. And I was a huge scrapbooker. So from 1996 to 2007, I scrapbooked. So in those days, I was printing every photo and I was putting them in albums, which at that time are large 12 by 12 albums. And now I still scrapbook some, but I do small digital albums. So that's a little bit different. But after the kids left the nest, my husband and I, we had a trailer and then a fifth wheel and now an RV. And we began our travel adventures, and I discovered a love for landscape and scenic photography. And most of my skills have been self-taught until 2020, when I took a lot of classes online, some through Scott Kelby and through Tim Shields. And then I have also learned a lot from the photographers on Happiness Hour. So I'm very thankful for this adventure. So this is my first photo here is the Skagit Valley tulip fields, which are located about 40 minutes southwest of me. And every year I take the opportunity to go to the tulip fields and photograph, obviously the landscape photos. This day was particularly nice with the contrasting clouds and the mountains. Let's see here if I can go to the next one. Oh, there we go. And also getting down on the ground and shooting up. I like to catch the blue skies, if there's blue skies, and the lights shining through the tulips. And I most often use my, I forgot to say that I do use a Canon 6D camera and mostly use the 24-105 lens, or a macro and a 100-400. This is shot with a macro camera, so you get nice, crisp close-ups. This is Mount Shuckson and Picture Lake, and this is about an hour and 15 minutes from me up the Mount Baker Highway. And Mount Baker is the ski resort here in Whatcom County. And this is one of the, I want to say it's the most photographed reflection lakes in the world, but maybe it's just the USA. I remember reading that somewhere. And as you're driving up to Mount Baker, you're just driving up there and you see this lake on the side of the road. And there's just this little pull off, and it's only about a 4/10 of a mile walk around the lake. And you get this beautiful reflection. It's stunning. And I was up there, actually, I've been up there at nighttime for star photos as well. Driving on past Picture Lake and going past the Mount Baker Ski Resort, you get up to a place called Artist Point, and it's a big parking lot. And one direction you see Mount Shuckson, which was the prior photo, and the other direction you see Mount Baker, which is where people ski. And this is obviously in September. Nobody's skiing on the mountain at this time, but there are beautiful trails, easy hiking trails, hard hiking trails, and obviously the scenery is just stunning. This is Whatcom Falls, and this is about 2 miles from my house. This is where I take my daily walks. So I'm very blessed to be able to, there's all kinds of trails up through this park. These falls are, on any given day, they're always beautiful. When we've had a lot of rain, I like to go up there, and I've seen it where the water is cascading over the rocks all the way as far left as the tree on the left. And I was just up there 2 days ago, and there were barely 2 little trickles coming down. So it just, the water at Whatcom Falls comes from our Lake Whatcom, which the runoff from the mountains. So kind of depends on how much snow we've had, how much water they're letting out of the lake and such. And on this, I'm going to go back to that photo. On this photo, I'm standing on the bridge. And then if you go off the bridge, which you see there in the background, and walk down on the trails down to the river, and this particular day, the sun was shining onto the trees, and there were no people on the bridge, which was unusual. This is my backyard. And we're on 1.6 acres here, and we're right in town. And this was a couple of years ago. I was standing at my kitchen window, which I do every morning because I have so much wildlife in the yard. And I saw a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. I didn't even see what it was, but I just knew. I thought, that's a coyote. And I grabbed my camera with my 1-400 zoom lens and opened my back door, and we looked right at each other. And I clicked one picture, and he ran off. And he was injured. His back leg was bleeding, but he didn't seem to slow him down. He ran pretty quickly. And that was a couple of years ago. Hadn't seen much of him until this year on our game cam. He's been on the game cam. I guess it's the same one. I don't know. Just about every night. Shortly after the coyote left, this came out. And we have lots of raccoons, and just sauntering through the yard over the rocks. And I actually just a couple mornings ago stepped out in the side yard and was about 10 feet from one, eyeball to eyeball, and took a picture, and it ran off. So they pose nicely for me. I think they have very nice wildlife in my yard. This was a few years ago. This is a tree in our backyard, and it's actually not on our property, and it's very, very tall and completely dead tree. And I had gone to pick up my sisters from the Bellingham airport, and we got back, we were loading their suitcases out of the car, and I saw this eagle land in the tree. So I ditched my sisters, and I grabbed my camera, and I was able to get right up under the tree and shoot straight up at the eagle. and it had a bird in its talons and was eating it. So if you look closely, you can see that the eagle has a big chunk of bird in his beak. And so that was an amazing moment. And this is he's quite a old advanced eagle, I think. This is Buck. He's my favorite buck that hangs out in our yard. I like him. He's got that distinguishing mark on his side. It's very photogenic. He poses nicely for me as well. And he struts his stuff through here. We'll have as many as 9 deer in the yard. And you can always tell the heads go up, and then you know something's happening, and here comes Buck. And he is on my husband's iPhone cover because he was so photogenic. And then the moon. I love to photograph the moon. I always have. And a little story I have about the moon is my mom loved the full moon. And in her later years, she and my sister were talking, and my mom had always liked being on committees and things, but she never wanted to be a president or anything. She would just be on the committee. And in her late years, when my sister was talking to her, my sister said, "Mom, you love the full moon so much. I bet when you get to heaven that God will put you in charge." And my mom thought for a minute, and she said, "No, I don't want to be in charge, but I'll be on the committee." So every full moon, one of us is taking a picture or something. And what I love about my 1:400 lens is I was able to shoot this handheld, no tripod, which before I was having to set up a tripod, and I could just walk out the door and one click and I'm done. So nice camera, nice lens. And this is the backyard. This is my barn, obviously on a beautiful winter day. And the date on the foundation of this barn is 1937, and it's getting a little more dilapidated now. I mean, you can't see it on the front view, but the back view, the roof's starting to get a lot of holes in it. Probably have so much wildlife that's climbing through there. But I have a love for barns, and if I have photographed this one in every time of day, every season of the year. And actually almost 16 years ago, my daughter and her husband were married in this barn. So it's very special. This is in Whatcom County where I live, and I will go out and just drive around and to photograph barns. And this one, of course, has the backdrop of Mount Baker. That's the mountain that we get to look at here in Bellingham all the time. Another barn, a little dilapidated too. This is out near the tulip fields in Skagit Valley. And I photographed this. Actually, one year I have a beautiful photo of it with the tulips behind it. And since that year, they haven't planted tulips in that field since. This is the Palouse Valley in Eastern Washington. And if you ever have an opportunity to go there, it is very much worth the trip, and plan at least a couple of days, because it's miles and miles of rolling hills and farmland and awesome barns and history. It's, and I don't know, I think I've been through it in spring and fall. But even the time of year when the farmers are, tilling up the fields and stuff, and you see all the tractors up there and the rows of dirt, it's just stunningly beautiful. There's a butte, can't think of the name of the butte, but there's a butte out there in Palouse Valley too, where you can get up on top and you have a 360-degree view of the whole Palouse Valley. And it's beautiful to photograph. And this is my barred owl in flight. Obviously, the story behind this was, it was March 2020. My husband and I were celebrating our anniversary, and we were on Samish Island, which is close by here. And we were going into the little town of Bow Edison, which is very, very popular birding place. And there's an S curve going into Bow Edison, and there were a ton of cars and a whole bunch of photographers. And my husband pulls off on the side of the road. And of course, I always have my camera with me. And he said, go. And I said, no, it's our anniversary. And he said, no, go. And I walked out in that field, and it was dusk. And I'm taking pictures. And then I see this bird flying at me. And I couldn't even tell through the eye part of my camera what it was. And I just was clicking it. And I got back in the car and he said, "Did you get it?" And I went, "I don't know. I'm too scared to look." And then I looked and I had this, and I was just like, oh, I was so excited. And I have to do a little side commercial here, because just today, I was sitting down on my back patio, just waiting to do this presentation. And something, I don't even know what, I just heard something. And I turned around and looked out at our back fence back by the barn. And there was something on the ground and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I went and got my zoom lens and I zoomed in on it and I still couldn't figure out what it was. I thought it was a hawk that was on the ground. I wasn't sure. And it stayed there. So I just kept getting closer and closer. And it was an owl, and it sat there on the ground, turned around and looked at me. Then it flew up in the tree. And so I thought I was going to be late for happiness hour, because I was shooting owls, shooting for fun. And this is a heron. We have a rookery here in Fairhaven, which is kind of Old Town Bellingham. And every year there's just a ton of herons. And of course, this one's gathering sticks to build the nests. And there are so many, and just great sights of them building their nests. And then I got, I think this is mama and two babies. The babies are getting older here, because when they're littler, they're fuzzier. But I was able to position myself where I could shoot through the sticks, because I always have so many sticks around them that there sometimes can be hard to shot. That's why it's actually easier to photograph them in flight when they're building their nests. And I've heard that the babies are out again this year, so I'm gonna have to get out there. And this is the start of my travel slides here. My husband and I were on a trip, and I think we were in New Mexico, and we went into a museum, and I took a picture of this picture with my cell phone, and I showed it to my husband, and we both just laughed, because, you know, GPSs can, we had gone into some sketchy offbeat areas, and we're following GPS. We like to stay off the main highways, so we do go on side roads. And so anyway, I took this picture, and then as we left and we were driving on, we decided we had to reenact the photo. So here we are, and I think this is the Great Basin Highway in Nevada. I'm not sure, but we're out in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, the car never passed us. We're pulled up on the side of the road. I set up my tripod, set up my camera, so we had plenty of time to do all that. And he's got the RV GPS on the front dash. He's got his phone, and I've got the map book, and we still don't know where we're going. So for travels, this is in Eastern Washington, and this is Potlatch State Park, and beautiful lake there. And I don't often get sunrise photos. I'm not that much of an early riser, but we were camping there, and I thought, okay, I got to get out. And I was so glad I did, because there was fog, couldn't see the other side of the lake, and then the sun rose, and I just had this beautiful moment. This is in Oceanside Marina, Oceanside, California. And my son lives in Carlsbad, my son and his wife and kids. And we went down to Oceanside Marina, and there's the sea lion and the pelican were having this song and dance. I got several pictures of it, but I wish you could hear this, because it was quite entertaining. They went on for quite a while, and I don't think either one of them won. And this sunsets, that's my specialty, is I love to capture sunsets. And this one we were camping nearby Carlsbad, California, on the ocean, just walking out on the beach and enjoying nature, capturing the sunset. Let's see, was it 2021? We went on an RV trip we went to the East Coast, and this was in Yellowstone National Park, and we had camped for a couple of days on the west side of Yellowstone, and then driving through Yellowstone, we got to the east side. And of course, I always have my camera with me. It's always in my lap, and I was watching out the window, and I saw these two grizzlies. And fortunately, my husband was able to pull off the road. So we're off the road. I roll the window down, and I stick my 1-400 out there, zoom all the way in, and they were just sauntering along by the side of the, they weren't by the side of the road. They were down. They were a long way from me. My sister was all concerned because she thought I was too close. And they just climbed over the logs. It was a moment. It was a moment I'll never forget. We got all the way to the East Coast, and on that trip, that trip was 85 days total, there and back. And our main destination was to get to the East Coast and go to Assateague Island for our granddaughter's 11th birthday. And she loves horses. So they had made reservations to camp on Assateague Island. And it was kind of funny because we got there was 4 or 5 of us groups camping, and we got all set up. And then my daughter and I said, gosh, we hope we see some horses. And boy, did we. They were obnoxious. They if you leave your trunk open and you've got food in your trunk, they come and get in people's, people were having to shoo them out of their trunk all the time. And then my daughter woke up in the middle of the night and they had a camper on top of their truck and felt that moving, and it was horses were rubbing up against the truck. And so it was quite entertaining. Never got to see them walking down on the beach, but and I actually have another picture I should have shared of one of them. It was neighing, and it just looks like it's cracking up laughing. It was so funny. This is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Washington, D.C. Our son-in-law did 2 tours of duty there. The first one, he was a tomb guard and earned his tomb badge. And the second time, he was sergeant of the guard. And this was in the morning. We're in Arlington National Cemetery, and it was before the gates had opened for people to come into the tomb. So I was very fortunate to be able to capture this when nobody was there except for the tomb guard. This is the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. I think this was September. And so the colors were just starting to come out. I would have loved to have been there like a week later and capture that. But I love the dramatic clouds, always love dramatic clouds in a picture. The colors, the mountains, just beautiful. I got to get back there and see it again. This is back home on the West Coast. This is the Abbotsford Air Show, Abbotsford, Canada. And I drove about 40 minutes up the road, parked on the side of the road with some friends. And I literally had a narrow road and a ditch, and then it's Canada. And and the Abbotsford Airport was just in front of us. And for some reason, this type of photography is just, I don't know, it's just stunning to me. And I guess the excitement, the noise, all of the tricks that they do and such. This is Prescott Valley, Arizona. And in our travels, all of our travels back and forth across the US, we decided that we had a desire to live in a warmer climate than Washington, and somewhere where more central, where it's easier to travel from rather than having to worry about snowy passes in the wintertime and such. This is actually, when we were there last November, we purchased a house in Prescott Valley, and this is actually in our community. So we're in a grassy plains, and the mountains that you see in the distance are the mountains of Prescott Valley. And we camped at Point of Rocks campground there for 2 weeks, and just a stunning area. And I'm really excited to, we won't be living there full time until next year. And I'm just excited to have new and different areas and different terrain to photograph. And I thought for Flag Day, it would be appropriate to share a flag photo. We have a flag pole in front of our house. This is our flag there. And then in Arizona, the house that we just bought also has a flagpole, and that was the first thing we did, was to put up a flag. And for you Texans, I thought I'd share a snow picture. This last winter. We had 11 inches of snow, stunningly beautiful. That's our barn. This will likely be my Christmas card this year. So if you're on my Christmas list, you'll get a photo of it. But anyway, like I said, I have photographed this barn in every season, time of day and light and everything. And I think this is one of my favorites with that beautiful snow. And that's it. You can, I'm at CarolynCumminsPhotography.com, and I'm on Instagram as Shooting for Fun, and Facebook as Shooting for Fun. And I started my business 15 years ago and called it Shooting for Fun. And I've toyed with changing it to Carolyn Cummins Photography, but everybody knows me by Shooting for Fun. So I'm going to keep shooting for fun.
Carolyn, So impressed. So
You.
impressed. So impressed. All right, let me get you to take your screen down.
Okay.
Give people a chance to put any questions in the comments if you have them. This is the time to throw them in there. I First of all, I don't know how you can leave this area for Arizona. I think you're out of your mind. So that's your challenge. My personal challenge to you is make Arizona. Um, I want to see some gorgeous photos there so I can go, oh, okay, I can allow this move. Um, I
Challenge accepted.
yeah, I just can't imagine leaving the wildlife that you have in your backyard. So I know Arizona is going to have a whole new creative animals and subjects for you to chase, but what you have had the luxury of the I don't know the right word, the luck of finding just amazing, and you took full advantage of that. I have to laugh because when you show the photo of your daily walk, people, Ben Cowan was like, so not fair. And I was sitting there going, yep, you're right, Ben Cowan. And Doug Boone is, he also kind of echoed that you're killing us with these photos. So I'm going to share these comments because they are really, really nice and really supportive. And your photography is beautiful. You did a great job with your presentation.
Thank you.
So appreciate you doing this. All right, let me see. There's mostly comments in here. I'm not seeing any questions, which that's fine. We don't always need questions, but it was a lot of fun, and for me to see something completely different. Now, I thought it was a little mean for you to show the photo with the barn with the snow, but that's me personally, because we are sizzling down here.
Just trying to cool you off a little bit.
Well, still a little mean, but that's okay. I hope that I think is Tara your daughter? I think it's Tara. Yeah. I hope Tara is very, very proud because she has every reason to be. Beautiful photos, beautiful stories. And, the biggest part of it is for you to come in here and share. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having me, Linda.
Can you repeat for Nancy the type of camera you're using? I think it was a Canon, but I didn't catch the numbers.
Yeah, it's a Canon 6D, not 60, but 6D.
Okay. And then what kind of lenses do you use with it? What are you using when you're in your car? I mean, are you using lenses, or is it one that you kind of keep planted on your camera?
Probably the one I keep planted on it is the 24 to 105.
Good range.
Yeah, and then the 100 to 400 if I want to get up close. I also have a macro, which anytime I ever take that, I always think I should use this more often because I really do enjoy that one. And I have a prime 50 lens too. I used to do portrait photography too. I even did some weddings and stuff, but that I decided nature poses easier than people do.
That is so true. So Sue has a question. What settings do you have ready for quick shots? Is there something that you can kind of give us a tip on? What are your settings that you just kind of like, all right, here we go?
I usually have it at a 100 ISO and then usually about a 7.1 f-stop. And then, can adjust from there if I need more light. But those are pretty much my go-to settings.
Okay. Are you shooting a manual or are you shooting aperture?
Yes, okay. Manual.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Susan Hansen's like right there with you. So she uses a 7D and she likes her go-to lens is that 100 400. So you're in good company. All right.
And I will say that on one of the classes, the Tim Shields has classes I took online, and that was where I learned back button focus, and that really improved my my wildlife photography a lot. Yeah.
I think I use back button, so my keeper rate's a little higher too. Dory's question is, what do you use for post processing?
Lightroom, pretty much only Lightroom. dabble in Photoshop a little bit, but I think it's got a hard learning curve. And Lightroom's adopting a lot of the Photoshop elements anyway. So yeah, pretty much all of it's done in Lightroom. And I will take like the things that I share on Shooting for Fun on my Instagram page. I will take a lot of iPhone photos. I have a iPhone 11 Pro, and with that portrait mode and everything, it takes some pretty amazing photos. And I have I use Photoshop on my phone.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. I think I've caught all the questions that were kind of peppered in here with all the comments, and I'll definitely share that with you, Carolyn. All right. Thank you for coming as a presenter. And it's a little different, isn't it?
It is different. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I stepped out of my comfort zone. So,
well, and I didn't have to push you. So that's even better. All right. Carolyn, again, thank you for doing this for the group and sharing, and hopefully you've inspired somebody else to say, okay, Linda, I'm ready to do my presentation for y'all. All right, if you're on Instagram, you can find Carolyn at Shooting for Fun, and you can connect with her through her website, CarolynCumminsPhotography.com. Next week, Sandra Zalaska will be back here to share her presentation, Photography Destination, Badlands National Park. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.